Next at 5, the man convicted of murdering a UW student 17 years ago dies in prison. What we know about the death of Brittany Zimmerman's killer. And a changing of the guard. The plans in store for Wisconsin's National Guard as a new leader steps up. Plus, staying safe while grilling out this summer. How UW health doctors say you can prevent serious burn injuries. You're watching News 3 Now at 5. The man convicted of killing a UW-Madison student back in 2008 has died in prison. 59-year-old David Call was serving a life sentence for the murder of Brittany Zimmerman. Back in 2008, Brittany's fiance found her dead in her apartment on West Doty Street in downtown Madison. She was a UW student from Marshfield who had just returned home from classes when someone followed her into her apartment and killed her. Call wasn't arrested until 12 years later in 2020. The cause of his death is unknown. He was being housed at the Dodge Correctional Institution. Well, we now know the name of the man who died in a 3-vehicle crash in Beloit on Monday. The Rock County Medical Examiner's office identifying him as 58-year-old Jay Wood of Milton. Beloit police say Wood's car was rear-ended on Madison Road, the impact sending his vehicle into oncoming traffic. The driver who rear-ended Wood has been cited and police say could face further charges. Well, right now, people are getting ready for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. And as you prepare to hit the road, police departments across the country are ramping up patrols. Our Tenacia Shaw has more on the new Click It or Ticket campaign.
First of all, buckle up.
Cops are buckling down on buckling up.
So our goal is to reduce crashes and reduce fatalities on our roadways.
Lieutenant Ryan Smith works in Sun Prairie and has been participating in the Click It or Ticket program for years.
We're just trying to raise awareness and educate the public to make sure that they're driving safely on our roadways and making sure that they use the seatbelts to make sure that they're as safe as possible.
If you get pulled over without your seatbelt on, police will not only give you a ticket, but they'll also give you what they are calling a valuable lesson.
We want to make sure people are being safe on the roadways, and the way that we can do that is an enforcement piece combined with education.
This campaign is enforced throughout the country through Memorial Day weekend until June 1st.
Obviously, we see a number of different crashes throughout the year, but usually holiday weekends are one of our busier times for crashes, so that's why we make sure we have more presence on our roadways at that time.
Ultimately, the goal is to save lives.
This is a fun weekend, a good weekend to get together with family and friends, and we want to make sure people are safe, especially on our roadways.
Reporting in Sun Prairie, Tenacia Shaw, News 3 Now.
Tenacia, thank you. Lieutenant Smith said that the tickets will start at $10 apiece. Well, new video evidence shows what took place last month in a Milwaukee County courtroom before the arrest of Judge Hannah Dugan. Federal agents were at the courthouse to arrest Eduardo Flores Ruiz. Judge Dugan is seen in the video directing them to the chief judge's office next door. Shortly after most of the agents walked away, Flores Ruiz is seen leaving Dugan's courtroom. The judge is now facing charges of allegations that she tried to help Flores Ruiz escape from federal agents. Well, Memorial Day weekend right around the corner. Meteorologist Blaze Keller on the weather patio with what we can expect. Blaze?
And we're going to really see similar conditions to what we saw today. Maybe more sunshine than cloud cover, as some peaks of sunshine are propping up here across southwestern Madison. Temperature is very similar to today as well, maybe slightly warmer in those low to mid 60s. Partly sunny conditions. You know, it is, I believe, called the unofficial start of summer. And while temperatures could stand to be a little bit warmer, mid 60s with a light northerly wind, I don't think it's going to be too bad of a weekend across central and southern Wisconsin. Wind should be light as well. Now, compared to yesterday, since we've seen a little bit of sunshine, we're about 5 to 10 degrees, even 15 degrees warmer than the same time yesterday, even with those northerly winds. As we go throughout the weekend, we are going to hang out in those 60s, as you just saw, but 70s, they are right around the corner. So as we're getting ready to maybe wrap up Thursday and begin to think about planning Friday, it's the end of the work week, starting out in the 40s, but we're going to end the day in very similar temperatures to where we are now, in those low to mid 60s underneath partly sunny conditions. Where's the rain? I know we just got off of a pretty wet 72 hours, but there is some rain in the forecast. We still do need it. Drought conditions have expanded across southern Wisconsin. We'll take a look at when rain could return in the full forecast.
All right, Blaze, thank you. A changing of the guard at the leadership of the Wisconsin National Guard. Last month, Governor Tony Evers appointed General Matthew Strub to lead the service. Our political reporter Will Keneally sat down with him and has more on the future of the Guard.
It's been 5 years since the COVID pandemic and the National Guard deploying across the state. General Strub was the Guard's chief of staff during part of that time. Now he's taking the top job.
So we stepped in and helped out in many different arenas during that time. And we did it because we have the resources. It isn't our primary mission, but we're so versatile that we were able to do that.
He says some of the lessons they've learned they can take to their day-to-day work and that primary mission.
We're a resource for the state. We can step in when other local entities don't have the resources and aid. So we're really here for both the nation and the citizens of Wisconsin.
Strub is taking the reins during some changes coming from the Department of Defense in D.C. That included scrubbing some references to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the military. The Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs website went down temporarily in January as part of that purge.
We have to follow those policies. And then we work with our personnel to make sure that we treat people with dignity and respect throughout, right? As the policies change, we want to take care of our people, and that's really our focus.
Strub says he hopes to foster positive opportunities for the service members in the organization that they can take both to their service and outside the Guard. Reporting from Truax Field on Madison's North Side, Will Keneally, News 3 Now.
And you can see more from our conversation with the new National Guard leader. Just tune in this Sunday at 10:30 in the morning on For the Record. A somber tradition at Arlington National Cemetery honors America's fallen heroes ahead of this Memorial Day. The ceremony is called Flags In. Members of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment are placing small American flags in front of more than 260,000 headstones. Each flag inserted exactly 1 boot length from the headstone's base.
You know, we look at this and almost kind of take it for granted, but these people have laid down their lives. Their families have been there to support, and so this is just, you know, a day where we can come out and just really honor them.
Flags In began back in 1948 when the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment was designated as the Army's official ceremonial unit. A record-breaking number of Americans are getting ready to head out of town for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. AAA reports just over 45 million people will travel a minimum of 50 miles from home over the multi-day holiday period. That's nearly 1.5 million more than last year. Nearly 40 million people will travel on the road, and they'll get a bonus at the pump. Gas Buddy predicts a gallon of regular unleaded will average $3.08. That would be the lowest gas price at the unofficial start of summer now in 4 years.
Also,
UW Health is urging people to take proper precautions when grilling ahead of the unofficial start of summer. Doctors say to never use gasoline, diesel, or kerosene when starting a fire, as they can have the same explosiveness as dynamite. Experts add that people should remove any tripping hazards that are near the fire area.
Also, ensuring that children are not running or playing near those sources of fire is super important. Obviously, they're, can be safe around fires as long as they're supervised, but we do see a fair number of kids who trip and fall into a fire just in the result of normal play.
UW Health says people should check with their local fire departments for burn bans and should not light fires on windy days. The transition from school to summer break can be challenging, especially for students on the autism spectrum. Psychologists say school provides a routine that can be important for individuals or children with autism. Parents can help their child adjust by creating a visual or picture summer schedule. Experts add to give yourself some grace when things do get off track.
You only have your kid at that age for that specific summer. So just, embrace it and, watch them have fun and use it all as just a learning experience of growing together.
And psychologists add that parents should create a signal for the child so that they can let you know when they do need a break. The FDA will now require COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna to come with new warning labels. The shots already come with a warning about heart inflammation. But moving forward, it'll indicate a risk for males between 16 and 25 years of age. The news is another hit to COVID vaccines that comes after the FDA announced that starting in the fall, it will only be available for people who are at least 65 years old or those with underlying conditions. Weight loss drugs that were affordable for many Americans may be out of reach as of today. A loophole that allowed compounding pharmacies to make cheaper generic version of drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy has now closed, and that could drive up monthly costs by a few $100 for many users. 2 drug makers are offering direct-to-consumer sales for $500 or less a month. Well, still to come at 5, a federal agency predicts an active hurricane season, and President Trump's budget passes in the House. What changes could be made to that proposal by the United States Senate? And mixed results for the markets on this Thursday. It shows a marginal 1-point drop for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The Nasdaq adds 53. The S&P 500 loses almost 3 points. And we'll be right back.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
President Trump's budget bill passed the House this morning, but there is still more work to do before the president can sign it. Bradley Blackburn reports.
The House debated through the night before narrowly passing President Trump's budget bill early Thursday morning.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
It took weeks of negotiations, including pressure from the president himself to get it over the line.
It was not easy to get to where we were this morning. A long series of late nights in this week, and ultimately the president closed it out.
The bill makes permanent Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which were set to expire next year. It also cuts taxes on tips and overtime. It increases spending on the military and border security. To pay for all of that, it cuts spending on food stamps and slashes nearly $700 billion from federal funding for Medicaid, which the Congressional Budget Office says would lead to nearly 8 million people losing health coverage.
What we've seen is the largest cut to Medicaid in American history.
The House version of the bill now heads to the Senate, where several Republicans aren't sold.
The Senate will basically write its own version of this bill, and I just want to make sure that there are no Medicaid benefit cuts. I'm concerned about some of what the House has done on rural hospitals, essentially the hospital tax.
House leaders warned their Senate colleagues not to go too far.
Think of this as a one-team effort, as we have, and to modify this as little as possible.
Republicans are hoping to get the bill to President Trump to sign by the 4th of July. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Now, if changes are made in the Senate, the bill would need to be re-voted on in the House before it can be signed into law. Well, hundreds of Department of Education employees will be getting their jobs back. Today, a federal judge temporarily reinstated workers who were let go earlier this year by the Trump administration. He said the cuts have led to funding delays and uncertainty for school districts across the country. The judge also blocked President Trump's executive order that focused on dismantling the agency. The Trump administration is expected to challenge that decision. The U.S. Treasury said it is phasing out production of the penny and will soon stop putting them into circulation. Consumers with pennies will still be able to use them, but without new pennies moving into circulation, businesses that complete cash transactions will have to begin rounding up or down to the nearest nickel. Pennies cost more than 3 cents each to produce. The Mint produced more than 3 billion pennies in 2024. J.P. Morgan Chase's CEO is issuing a warning about risks to the economy. In an interview with Bloomberg Television, Jamie Dimon said there's a chance the U.S. will see stagflation. He cited factors that include large government budget deficits and global trade disruption due to U.S. tariffs. Earlier this week, Dimon said he believes the odds of stagflation are likely twice that of what others have projected. Well, the 2025 hurricane season in the Atlantic will likely be a rough one. Today, NOAA predicted a 60% chance of above normal hurricane activity. Forecasters expect up to 19 named storms, including 6 to 10 hurricanes, with at least 3 of those Category 3 or higher. Officials held their news conference in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. That's near where Hurricane Katrina made landfall 20 years ago, to highlight improvements in storm tracking and emergency response.
Every Cat 5 that hit this country was a tropical storm or less 3 days prior. The big ones that hit this country are fast. That's why the preparedness we're talking about today, you got to have the plan early, because the big ones are really quick.
And the forecast comes a day after FEMA rescinded a strategic plan that outlines priorities for disaster relief. The agency's administrator said the plan contains goals and objectives that bear no connection to FEMA accomplishing its mission. It's been a rainy few days, but can we expect showers on Memorial Day? Here's Blaze with a full forecast.
And maybe a shower. Emphasis on isolated. Not everybody will see that. That could also happen into Sunday as well. But our big high pressure system is acting like a big weather shield, and it's going to cool us off tonight underneath partly cloudy conditions into those upper 30s to low 40s. So we could be dealing with some patchy frost as we wake up on Friday. That high pressure system is going to essentially move its way overhead, and that's going to continue to bring us that mix of partly sunny conditions, sometimes mostly cloudy, like what we saw today as we head into Friday, further into Saturday, and that continues into Sunday as well. Because high pressure systems have sinking air, and air that rises forms clouds, rain, thunderstorms, thunderstorms, even snow, it's going to be hard for those showers to try to form as we go into Sunday and further into Memorial Day, but it is possible. It's just that time of year where into the afternoon, maybe one or two pop up. Not everybody will see them, so don't cancel any outdoor plans as we go into your Memorial Day weekend. The better chance for more widespread rain is actually going to return to the Tuesday after Memorial Day as we start to see this high pressure system move off towards the east. We'll get some southerly winds, a little bit more moisture, and maybe some upward motion in the atmosphere for these showers to play with. So where is all that rain going to fall? Well, not overhead. Over the next 10 days, I've dragged this out through our extended forecast. The Madison area and a lot of Wisconsin picking up less than 1/2 inch of rain. That big weather shield keeping all of that rain, as you can see here, well off to our south of even St. Louis, where Tulsa, Memphis, New Orleans, Dallas, even Atlanta could pick upwards of 1 inch to 2 inches, maybe 3 inches. Some parts estimating maybe upwards of 5 inches of rain over the next 10 days. So high pressure systems can be good if you don't like the rain, if you want the pleasant, sunny, light winds. But if we need rain, they're not our friend because we want the rain. So we're going to continue to sit underneath these dry conditions, or at least drier than normal conditions, for as long as this high pressure system is overhead. And it looks like at least through the end of May into the start of June, we're sitting underneath a 40 to 50% chance. Northern Wisconsin underneath that 50 to 60% chance. Does that mean we won't see any rain between now and then? No, we'll just likely be a little bit drier than the normal amount of rain we should pick up as we end May and kick off June. The drier than normal conditions may continue into those first few days of June. We're starting to scale back that confidence, which I like to see because unfortunately the drought conditions have expanded across mainly southern Wisconsin. It was really limited to parts of Grant, Lafayette, and Greene counties, the moderate drought conditions. But even with the rainy couple of days we've had, those moderate drought conditions have expanded pretty much from southern parts of Grant County all the way back east into Racine and Kenosha County. So we're at about 6% of the state. Not necessarily bad. We have been in much worse conditions, but I would really like to see the moderate drought percentage at 0, as I'm sure a lot of folks at home would as well. So I don't want to see these dry conditions persist, but I certainly don't want us to be flooded with rain. It's kind of walking that fine line. So speaking of rain, we're going to hold off on those rain chances until Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. That means a pretty pleasant Sunday and Memorial Day. And then those 70s return on Wednesday with maybe some thunderstorms in 80s by that following weekend.
All right, Blaze, thank you. And after the break at 5, climate change is impacting the size of some animals. How Nemo is changing shape to survive warmer waters. Stay with us.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
New research reveals clownfish are shrinking to cope with the world's rising sea temperatures. Tina Kraus has the story.
In the warming waters of the South Pacific, the same striped swimmers that stole hearts on screen are making a smaller appearance in real life. Researchers say Nemo has adopted an innovative shrinking strategy to survive the ocean's heat.
The shrinking was very surprising, so we kept following them through what turned out to be a really big heat stress event.
The study found clownfish living on coral reefs slimmed down drastically when ocean temperatures soared in 2023, a clever way to cope with heat as smaller fish use less energy, need less food, and breathe better when oxygen dips. Scientists say it helped reduce social conflict, too.
For anemone fish, for Nemos, the social environment is really important. We looked at these breeding pairs, so the male and the female together, and what we found is that it's really important for them to coordinate what they're doing with their size to be successful.
The research revealed clownfish didn't just lose weight, but got a bit shorter, too. And it wasn't just a one-off. 75% of them shrunk at least once during the heat wave. Some fish managed to grow again when conditions improved. Scientists say the unexpected turn for Nemo could open a new chapter in understanding the shrinking sizes of other fish across the world's oceans. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
A growing body of research suggests animals are shape-shifting to cope with climate change, including birds, lizards, and insects. And we're back. Final check of your First One forecast after a short break.
The unofficial start of summer is just days away, and so is barbecue season. But the price of meat is flirting with all-time highs. What's driving cattle prices? And a powerful symbol of sacrifice returns to Arlington National Cemetery, where the old guard will be using a new approach to honor those who served. That's tonight on the CBS Evening News.
And coming up at 6, tariffs are impacting small businesses across Wisconsin. We'll sit down with the Mount Horeb man on how the taxes are halting production on his new product. That's in 30 minutes. News 3 now at 6. One man is crediting his scaly pet for alerting him to a dangerous situation. Donald Hale says this past weekend he had just come back from a 13-mile run when he took some melatonin and dozed off, fell into a deep sleep. So he didn't hear 2 smoke alarms that were going off. Lucky for him, Spike the bearded dragon was awake, and Hale says Spike whipped him with his very long tail to wake him up. And Hale soon found fire in his bathroom, quickly put it out. He says as a reward, he is taking Spike on a vacation to the Grand Canyon. Don't lose him in the Grand Canyon.
I was going to say that, and I think that's an appropriate
He's a
thing that you could do.
He's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Well, the least he could do. Final check of the forecast.
It's going to be a pleasant evening. If you're going to head out this evening or Friday evening for that matter, it's going to be in the 50s and 60s, mostly clear to partly cloudy as we head overnight. It is going to be a chilly night, back into the upper 30s to low 40s, so some patchy frost may be possible waking up on Friday. 60s, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and we are looking to stay dry for your Memorial Day and your Memorial Day weekend. An isolated shower can't be ruled out Sunday or Monday, but for the most part, I think we stay dry. And then those rain chances, they start to slowly return, maybe a few thunderstorms as well, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but Eric and folks at home, 70s finally returns, starting maybe as early as Tuesday, but for sure Wednesday, maybe 80s by the end of that week.
We have definitely been waiting, Blaze.
Yes.
Thank you. We're back in a half hour for News 3 Now at 6. Stay tuned now for the CBS Evening News.